Hey guys, Scripture, we're here with another video, and not to anyone's surprise, the critics are raving about the Acolyte. I guess they saw the first 4 episodes, I want to say. Is it authentic? Who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe this show is really, really good, and we'll see what happens, I guess. But the first reactions are in. The newest Star Wars show on Disney Plus, and viewers are loving the series' dark murder mystery vibe and force foo. I told you guys, it's the Matrix. The fighting is the Matrix, and they can say that, oh, but it's the Force is why they can flip around and do all that stuff. Okay, so whatever. Set 100 years before the Phantom Menace, take us into a world of shadows and crime in a galaxy far, far away, centering around a former Padawan and her Jedi Master. The cast also includes Carrie-Anne Moss. Yeah, we know all that, blah, blah, blah. It's a dream for fans of the High Republic era and a fresh experience for everyone else. Now, I just wanted to say, as far as the High Republic era, I've talked about this before, the book sales for the High Republic really dropped off. So, like, the first, and this is physical copies, but I would make the argument that physical copies is indicative of digital copies in terms of percentages. So, I think the first one sold like 100,000 or something, 120,000 physical copies, and then by the time you got to like the 10th or 15th book, you're all the way down to like 10, 11, 13,000 copies. I don't know. I don't know if the High Republic is all that popular. That doesn't sound like a popular series when, as the books keep being released, the amount of sales just continue to get lower and lower and lower. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I have no interest in the High Republic. I didn't look at the High Republic. I just wasn't into it. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's trash or isn't. I'm just simply saying that the book sales kind of show you that people aren't super excited about it. 4 episodes in, and it's taking its time, layering in the dark mystery, taking its time. That makes me concerned that there's going to be some filler. I don't need all of this time. Riveting fight choreography and superb performances from Stenberg and Jung Jae. I'm digging it, said one fan. I'd love to know who is this fan. So just some guy. Okay, fair enough. Others also praised the fight scenes, particularly the Force Fu, which will see characters engage in hand-to-hand martial arts rather than reaching for their lightsabers. Star Wars The Acolyte is filled with mystery and darkness that delves deep into the new and diverse depths of the galaxy. What is with the word diverse? They use it for everything now. The galaxy already was diverse. Like George Lucas said recently, there's so many aliens. It's just like, oh, it's diverse. You didn't invent the wheel, Disney. Like, there's been lots of diversity before you came around. I know you want to take that title and put it on your mantle, but you don't get to. It's already been done. You're not fighting a new cause. This was done 50 years ago. As far as the Force Fu, like, people say, oh, they don't pull out their lightsabers. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So the scene where Amanda Stenberg's character is fighting Jung Jae's character happens after they realize that Jedi have been murdered. And then they realize it was her. And so he says in the one TV spot, oh, I want to be the one to bring her in. Now, if there was a murderer running around, then you wouldn't just engage in hand-to-hand combat with them. You would pull out your lightsaber, you'd pull out your weapon, you'd say, stop right now, you're under arrest. What good is there in fighting them? Like, that doesn't make any sense. First of all, you're risking your life. You're risking more people's lives. She's already killed people. That just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. And it's just a reason to have the Force Fu scene rather than it being natural. Now, again, I haven't seen the show. Maybe there's something I'm missing here. But in that scene, she reaches for his lightsaber, first of all. She is armed with knives. She has the Force. She can throw them at him. She can do various different things. We do see in the one trailer that Carrie-Anne Moss's character does pull out her lightsaber to block the knives from hitting her. So this person is not like, oh, well, let's just have a Force Fu dance fight and then I'm going to be a good person. It's like, no. So it just feels kind of forced, kind of forced food. It doesn't feel like it's going to be natural because, again, this is a murderer running around. She, at the very least, beats the crap out of a bunch of people in the cantina. I don't know if they survive or not. She kills Jedi. And you're like, oh, let's just have a Force Fu fight instead of, like, literally putting my lightsaber to your neck and saying, get on the ground, you're arrested. It just seems, like there's not a good reason for that. And people will say, well, they're peacekeepers. You're not keeping the peace by fighting somebody. That's not peacekeeping. What are you talking about? And I understand he doesn't want to kill her. And I'm not saying he would kill her with his lightsaber. But if she doesn't stop, then you do what you have to do. And if that means you chop one of her arms off, then you chop one of her arms off, because she's literally running around murdering people. This isn't like some random person that robbed a liquor store. This is a murderer going on a killing spree and murdering Jedi. So again, I just feel like it's forced. I feel like they're trying to be the Matrix. And yes, it looks cool. I'm not saying Kung Fu isn't cool, but we've never seen this type of fighting in Star Wars. The closest thing we have is Yoda flipping around and stuff against Dooku, which, by the way, was corny. I didn't like it at all. A lot of people didn't like it. Didn't take away from the story, but looked corny. This old man is jumping around like a fish out of water, flipping and flopping, and I hope I'm wrong, but it does feel like this is going to be kind of like, why are they fighting? Why doesn't he just deal with her instead of like having this fight scene that's completely unnecessary? That's just what it looks like right now. Again, I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what it looks like based on what they've released. I've seen 4 episodes and dig the sinister story it's steadily setting up. So again, they're doing this sort of slow. I've seen people comparing it to Andor. Andor had a lot of drawn-out stuff that was unnecessary, and they were doing it to create drama, but they were doing it at the expense of the viewer. Because, again, Star Wars isn't like this slow drawl, right? But that's what they're doing now. They're trying to be like Game of Thrones. I said this about the Andor. If you want to watch any of my reviews of Andor, again, it's not a horrible show or anything, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It just feels like a generic show, and then they slapped a Star Wars skin on it. And when I mean generic, I mean good, like well written, kind of like Game of Thrones, right, with the long monologues and all that type of stuff. But that's not very Star Warsy. I mean, when you think of the OT, even the prequel trilogy, there's really not a lot of like long drawn out monologues and like long pauses for like extended periods of time. So, not that it's a bad show, but it just isn't Star Wars. And I think this is kind of going down the same road where it's like, it's a murder mystery with Matrix fighting and long drawn out, drag it so that we can get our 8 episodes in that we could have condensed into 3, which is what Andor was, right? Andor could have been a 2-hour movie, pull out all the long drawn out nonsense that you didn't need. I've seen 4 episodes and dig this sinister story. It's steadily setting up big potential in this era. Carrie-Anne Moss with a lightsaber doing Force Fu is perfection. And again, see, they're appealing to Matrix fans, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what it is. Now, people get mad at me on Twitter for saying that, but that's a fact. They casted Carrie-Anne Moss, who has experience in this type of fighting style, who's done it in The Matrix. You recognize her face, you know what she's about, and so they're appealing to those types of fans. Now, those types of fans are not bothered the way I am about this completely different type of fighting that we haven't seen in Star Wars. And I tweeted this tweet saying that it was like The Matrix, and then all these like acolytes came out of nowhere and just like, you're a piece of crap. There's always been punching and kicking in Star Wars. No one said that. I said they're trying to make it like The Matrix. I didn't say there was no punching and kicking in Star Wars. But all these people piled on and like freaked out. And it's like, I get it. So there's all these people that this is appealing to. So I'm not saying it's wrong in that sense. But again, it's not Star Wars. Yes, when 2 guys are fighting with a lightsaber, sometimes somebody gets punched in the face. Sometimes somebody gets kicked. Sometimes their weapon gets taken away, like when Obi-Wan's fighting Jango Fett, and then he's forced to get physical because he has no other option. He doesn't have a weapon. I get it. But this idea that it's like hand-to-hand combat was always the Jedi way and they didn't pull out their lightsabers is garbage. They always pulled out their lightsabers. Every time. So they're changing it to appeal to the fans of Carrie-Anne Moss, as you see with that quote. Anyways, The Acolyte is a blend of murder mystery with Star Wars charm, 4 episodes in, and it's clear that this new timeline will add to the lore of the galaxy in big ways. How? By having Sith when they're supposed to be extinct, and Darth Maul literally says, finally, we're going to reveal ourselves to the Jedi. And then people will say, well, they're not Sith. just because they have a lightsaber doesn't mean they're Sith. Well, what makes somebody a Sith? If you're acting like a Sith, if you believe the same things as the Sith, if you hate the Jedi, if you wield a red lightsaber like a Sith, aren't you, and you're using the Force for your own gain, are you not then a Sith? Just because you don't say you are? And again, I've used this analogy multiple times, you guys know this. I steal stuff, but I'm not a thief. Well, but you steal stuff, you are a thief. No, I'm not, because I just decided I'm not. Like, that's the level of creativity they have for these non-Sith. And then people say, well, Kylo Ren wasn't a Sith. Well, his master was trained by Palpatine. And he uses Force lightning. And he does everything the Sith does. So just because he doesn't take the label? Like, what is that? That doesn't even make any sense. You don't get to decide what you are when you're something else. Like, you don't get to say you're not a thief when you steal things. You're a thief. Like, what? And this is the era we're in now in modern storylines where people just get to just say what they are, regardless of their behavior, regardless of their beliefs. They just get to say, no, I'm this. That's not reality. So, okay, the non-Sith. Anyway, so they're going to destroy the lore of the prequel trilogy. And George Lucas has said in an interview that there was no Sith. They'd never made themselves, never exposed themselves to the Jedi for 1,000 years. Oh, but they're not Sith. Like, even though they do everything Sith do. Like, it's... And this is why, to me, it's just poor writing. Why didn't you write a different villain? See, here's the other thing. This is another huge issue that I wanted to address. I should actually do a whole other video about this, but I'm just going to mention this really quick here. Is this whole idea that, like, people will say, well, Disney's doing stuff where they don't use Sith, they use other things. Like in Ahsoka, oh, they're dark Jedi. They do everything Sith do, they have lightsabers, but they're dark Jedi. Think about what you're saying. They're too chicken crap to actually write a different villain that doesn't have a lightsaber, that doesn't use the Force, and doesn't act like a Sith. They're too chicken to do that. But yet, so many people are buying into this idea that it's good writing because they made them Sith, but not Sith. Like, think about it. They can't come up with another type of villain that isn't a Force user with a lightsaber. But then they just tell you as a fan, oh, but they're not Sith. And you're buying that. Why don't they come up with a different villain entirely in this series that has nothing to do with lightsabers and the Force? Why can't they do that? Well, because they can't. They don't know how. They don't know what they're doing. They can't write anything interesting and new and different. So then they make something literally the exact same as it's always been, and then they say, oh, but they're not actually Sith because they don't say they're Sith. And then people actually buy into that. It's crazy to me. Like, they're the laziest writers ever. And then they're going to try and suck you in with Matrix fights that have never happened in Star Wars. So again, I'm not saying this show's bad, but going in, there's a lot of things that are problematic. It's clear that this new timeline will add lore in big ways. The Kung Fu Force fighting is magical. JJ as Soul is the coolest Jedi since Qui-Gon. Can't wait to see where it goes. Like, have you never seen Kung Fu movies, people? Like, we've seen them. That's not part of Star Wars. Audiences have also made comparisons to other titles from fellow Star Wars series Andor to some more unlikely parallels, which have done nothing but raise our expectations. See, exactly. It's going to be like Andor. It's going to be slow and drawn out and not feel like Star Wars. The Acolyte episodes 1 to 4 are superb, a captivating murder mystery that evokes the detective tales of Twin Peaks and Matt Reeves' The Batman. Mature like Andor while fully embracing and thematically connecting to the prequels. No, it's just like Andor. Andor was a generic drama with a Star Wars skin. This is going to be a generic murder mystery with a Star Wars skin. Because again, they can't write Star Wars, which is mind-blowing to me because Star Wars is actually pretty easy to write. It really is. It's not hard. It's basic fantasy fun. Sci-fi fantasy fun. And they just can't do it. They have to draw off of everything else and try to make it like something else, and then they slap a Star Wars skin on it. Seeing the High Republic in live action does not disappoint, a viewer tweeted. The Acolyte is a Force-sensitive version of Andor. The cast is stellar. The writing of each episode is jam-packed. Well, no, if it's like Andor, it won't be jam-packed. So it can't be like Andor. Andor is not jam-packed. Andor is drawn out. There's nothing jam-packed about taking something that could have been done in 2 hours and stretching it to 8 or 10 or whatever. That's not jam-packed. Practical sets and amazing costumes as well as special effects work make every location feel lived in while having an emotional through line to keep it focused. Okay, and again, maybe it's going to be good, but is it going to be Star Wars? Or is it just going to be a generic murder mystery that's a good, well-written show with a Star Wars skin? That's what I'm concerned about. And that's what it seems like they're doing here. And that's what they did with Andor. Again, that doesn't make Andor bad. It just makes it bad in the sense that it's not really like Star Wars. Even though, again, there's some really awesome scenes. Like the stuff that goes on in the prison in Andor is really awesome. I love that. I thought Mon Mothma was written terribly and turns out to be a really crappy person. But that's the other thing I just wanted to add. Just the final here, guys, is they're kind of making everything gray, right? There's no good, there's no bad. Everybody's gray. And again, that's not Star Wars. That's not Star Wars. That's Game of Thrones. Star Wars, as per George Lucas, and he said this and wrote this in the movies, there's clear lines delineated between good, between evil. These are timeless issues, character growths. These are things that are beyond time. And this whole graying and making the Jedi stupid and there's not really good or bad and all this stuff that they're trying to do. And Andor's the good guy, but he's a murderer and kind of a crappy guy. And Mon Mothma's a good guy, but she's kind of crappy and pimps her daughter out for money. And like, so they're just trying to like blur the lines of good and bad. And again, go ahead and do that in something else. It's not Star Wars. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Are you excited about this? Do you think it's going to be bad? Whatever. Just let me know in the comments what you think. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Always helps the channel. And feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.